Hey everybody! As you might have noticed from the lack of the musical intro, this episode of Authors and Dragons is going to be a little different. We actually do not have our full crew, and with the holidays and everything, it was very difficult to try and get everyone together. So, rather than miss an episode, we decided we were going to do an interlude episode. And look for these whenever we have just, holidays in the way or not enough people to fill a game. It's sort of filler, but it's going to be fun. We're going to tell some of our favorite gaming stories from outside of Authors and Dragons, and just shoot the shit and keep you entertained so that you have something to listen to on your commutes, even though it's the holidays. I'm Drew Hayes, the usual GM, author of Superpowers, Dorothy's Fred, The Vampire Count, blah, blah, blah. You guys have heard all this by now. Take it away, Joseph. You're next on the introduction line.
Hi, I'm Joseph Brassi. I was one of the 7 authors in historical fiction, The Mongoliad. I play Bjorg Bjornsson, the enthusiastic barbarian. I finished a novel called Glassblade, and I'm working on a novel called Skyfarer.
Hi, I'm Rick Walterian, and I write stupid shit about a stupid vampire who tells stupid dick jokes. Shit like that.
Get off my fucking turf, Rick.
My name's Robert Bevan. I play the part of, normally I play the part of Klaus Richter, the rogue. I also tell stupid stories about stupid characters telling stupid dick jokes, but they're not vampires.
Oh, get your own fucking intro, Robert.
Also, you did have a vampire.
Well, I said not all of them.
Hey, I'm Steve Weverill. In the game, I play Brandon Firemaster, the monk with intimacy issues. In real life, I write comedy fantasy, The Doomsayer Journeys, the latest of which is called A Dark Knight Begins. Please do go and download it.
And together we are
Also
here to bullshit our way through an hour or so, because, it's Christmas, we've all got family in town, and we're traveling, and by God, there's nothing like dealing with family to make you wish you were on a podcast talking to people from half a nation away, alone in a room.
It's a very
alone
special episode.
in a room. I actually have a question for us to kick things off.
Sure.
Our friend Lars wants to know, have you ever set off a fireball in an enclosed space? And if so, how did the rest of your party repay you?
I have done that, and I was playing a half-devil, or a half-demon, so I had fire resistance at the time. They were not happy, and the cleric magically forgot to heal me for the next several sessions.
So how far down into the
game?
I'm assuming, assuming. I don't think we're counting High School Misadventures with Bunsen Burners for this.
Oh, right. Well, that's me out.
Mike, I had a party that was down in the sewer one time, and we were searching for the undead. We see some shadows up ahead, so my guy immediately, lets loose the fireball. Turns out they were just harmless sewer workers, which essentially blew them up, ignited the gases in the sewer, and then, we were sort of public enemy number one.
Oh, so I was saying, I was in a group that, we did pretty much the same thing, except I think there were actual enemies in the sewer, but yeah, we fireballed the place, and, the street collapsed in on us, and, that's what inspired the collapsed sewer district of the city in my books.
Jeez,
that doesn't surprise me at all.
God. No, I'm messing with you. That's actually fun insight for the listeners who read our stuff.
That'll draw them in.
Yeah. Okay, so I forgot. It wasn't an enclosed space, but I did, I was in a party where we were all, hanging out in, a pool area, and it was, the downtime after we'd finished killing a nymph. We were like, oh, if only we could, make this a hot tub, and I didn't quite understand how magic worked and the potency of spells yet. So my character threw a fireball into the pond, evaporated half of it, and gave us all steam burns.
Nice.
I had I seem to remember there was a campaign I was involved in that had one of our characters. She was a pyrokinetic, and the villagers trying to burn her. The village decided to try to burn her at the stake. A pyrokinetic. We can all imagine how this goes. She proceeded to take control of the flames and explode large numbers of the crowd, raining chunks of people down on the other members of the party who were attempting to requisition goodwill from the local lord half a town away. There's something about, talking to the guy going we would very much, we would like to court your goodwill, and then someone's face landed on his face.
And then someone's face landed on his face. And they lived happily ever after.
She also carried around someone's mortifying man parts in her pocket for a while, so that was a special campaign.
Oh, that sounds like a fancy item, mortifying man parts.
Plus 3.
Plus 3 to what?
Plus 3 to holy shit.
Go ahead, Rick.
Now, I was in a campaign of Star Frontiers, so like veering a little bit away from D&D, which also probably showing my age. My character was quote unquote a demolitions expert. So we're supposed to be disabling this generator in a factory. I whiffed my knowledge roll, had no idea how much explosive to use, and used everything I had, which was 2 kilograms of this high explosive. Turns out I needed a few milligrams of it.
Ooh.
So basically, instead of disabling the generator, I vaporized the entire factory, and the entire party woke up having prosthetic limbs grafted onto us.
I mean, depending on how the limbs worked, that was kind of badass. Like, upgrade!
Oh, God, okay, sorry, I just shot alcoholic cider up my nose. Oh!
That's one way to do it.
Ow!
Oh.
Not the intent.
I have a question from a
Got any
reader
more
that's
questions
also
from
a plug opportunity for everybody.
Okay.
Nice.
So, we got this one a while back on episode 7, but we haven't really had an opportunity to work it in yet. So this was just a question from a reader that they have read several of our books, but their question was, what of your books that you have out would you recommend for a reader to pick up for like the first thing you'd want to introduce them to your world with? Like, so whatever series, whatever, you get one book to sell someone on your stuff, what's the one you give, or you tell them?
In the interest of giving them, like, the one of the one series I have out, I would say book 1 of the Mongoliad.
Okay, Joseph says Mongoliad, book 1.
First, the introduction
Yeah,
to my series
I read
is
all my...
called-
Go ahead.
Hey man, it's my turn. You had your extra plug. Back off. The introduction to my series is called The Last Volunteer. I write a few things outside of the series. Basically, you should just buy all the books.
Buy them all, you prick.
Steve's not really getting the point of that exercise.
No, I'm deliberately not getting the point.
Fair enough.
I am not a good salesman.
Okay, Robert, you can go now.
Okay. I write all the short stories with the thoughts that they might be anyone's first introduction to the world, but if I had to choose one, it'll be the first Critical Failures book.
I was hoping you'd be like, Critical Failures 3. I don't want you to know shit. Rick, what about you, man?
Well, first book in the series is Bill the Vampire, and first place is usually a good place to start. But what I try to like throw a little bit of background into like all the books, just in case anybody jumps in.
That's generally a good habit. I should be better about that in some of my series, but I'm like, nah, because I skim over recap, so I assume the readers do too. For me, if I was going to give you one book to judge my writing by, it would probably be Reaper Man by Terry Pratchett, which I did not write and I'm not affiliated with, but if it's going to form an opinion of me, I'd really like you to judge my work as Terry Pratchett's work, because he was a lot better than me.
That is a great book.
Fucking
Hold on
leagues
a
better,
fucking
man.
second.
Like, you will have such a high
you did-
opinion of me.
You didn't say we're allowed to quote somebody else's book. Man, there's loads of books that are better.
Honestly, I think if I was going to give someone one of mine to start with, I would either go NPCs if they're into gaming, Fred if they're into satire, but on Hand of God, my default would probably be Pairs and Perils, even though it's my little bastard child that almost no one's read. I still love it. I still consider it probably the most quintessential me book I've ever written, and I think if you like that, you'll like everything else I write, and if you don't like that, you probably won't get any enjoyment out of the other stuff, because it's all the same humor and same tone in a lot of ways. Alright, what's the next reader question?
Here's one. Why don't we each give our most infamous, embarrassing death in a game?
Ooh, that is fun.
Oh, God, let me think.
Alright, I got one. Alright, I was playing this gnome wizard, and the rest of the party were kind of like infighting. But it was getting kind of tense because somebody had been given a cursed sword, and his character was acting like kind of a dick, and the players didn't know about the cursed sword, so they thought the player was just being a dick. And I don't know, things were getting pretty heated in the room we were playing in. And so while we're all supposed to be fighting this dragon together, it's me and one other guy fighting the dragon, and they just started beating the hell out of each other. And and the dragon swallowed my character whole, and I did my damnedest to get out of it. I fireballed him from the inside. I guess that counts also with the fireballing in an enclosed space thing. Yeah, I fireballed inside his belly. I think I did a lot of damage to the dragon. I did a lot of damage to myself. I didn't wind up surviving. I got digested, but they eventually defeated the dragon. So, yay.
Hey, at least you went out fighting a dragon.
Yeah. Oh, are we going for
Yeah.
badass deaths or like ridiculous
No,
deaths?
I got a less heroic death.
Okay.
We were playing a game of Middle Earth, and the difference between Middle Earth and D&D at the time was Middle Earth had like a system where you could actually do like limb damage. So my character had a broken arm from a battle, and we were all scaling. We were essentially scaling a cliff face, and my character was like flagging behind badly because broken arm. So all the other players went into the other room. Apparently, I thought they were having a powwow with the DM about like what was going on at top. They come back in. I finally reach the top. My character sticks his head over, and the party leader is like, we were talking, and we've decided you're a burden to the group, and kicks me in the face, sending me plummeting several thousand feet down.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Not quite the dragon.
I've got a shameful death. It's bad because I was trying to be so clever. So the backstory to this is that we were fighting this group of people, and the big bad boss rolled 3 natural ones and killed herself. Like midway through the fight, we're getting stomped by the minions. She falls and impales herself on her own dagger, and the DM likes to like add flavor in that world. Like when things like that happen, he's like, "Well, she rolled 3 natural ones, she dies." At which point the minions and we were like, "Well, are you still getting paid?" And they're like, "No, I guess we don't give a shit." And so they left. But we detected magic and we found that the dagger, because of the sudden death, had become cursed. Anytime anyone used it, they had a chance to roll a natural 1, and if they rolled a natural 1, they automatically slashed their own throat with it. And so we never used it. See, that was backstory. And then later on in the game, I was trying to barter for something, and I was like, alright, I'll trade you this cursed dagger. Like, it was a shady fucking dealer. I was like, I'm sure you have use for a dagger that has a good chance of killing its owner. And like, we're never going to use it. And the DM was like, all right, you can hand it to him. He'll buy it. You got to give me a handling check to make sure you don't natural 1 it.
Oh, son of a bitch.
And I natural 1 trying to hand the dagger over. Fucking just cut my own throat clean. Drop dead. And to the rest of my party's credit, they were like, well, now you know it works. Not my boldest
This is all
bravest
making me
death.
This is all making me feel a lot better about how things are going in our game.
This is actually kind of funny because I have been put into the negative, into the negatives plenty of times in the game, but I've never actually died. I did have exactly, fingers and toes crossed. There was that time that a casual conversation in a bar ended up in 2 members of the party massacring the entire bar. Like, everyone in the room was killed.
That's standard fare.
It was a bar in the D&D world.
Did it involve fire?
I'm trying to remember. There was gunfire. I'm trying to see. Shit, what was that other one? There was the time that my character was thrown right into the negatives because he tried to use diplomacy on someone throwing lightning bolts. Not my brightest moment. He walked right into a lightning bolt, ate it in the teeth, and like fell back down going, "Oh, why did this happen to me?"
Oh. Okay, have we all done deaths?
Yeah.
Except Steve, but I don't think Steve has any deaths yet.
This is my first tabletop gaming experience, so when I die, I'm sure it will be spectacular and something I will treasure.
What's your what's your party's biggest fuck up in a game? Like D&D, any game. Like just.
Oh Jesus, I got one.
Yeah, you went so far off the rails. You fucked up so bad that you could almost hear the DM cursing.
Oh Jesus, I got some good ones for this.
Pick your favorite.
Yeah, there was a campaign I was involved in. The entire game took place on an island, like this little island nation type thing. Half the cast was refugees. The kingdom had fallen and all that shit. So there's this temple. It's like the last temple of this virtuous religion in this setting. And this campaign was kind of weird because it was a not exactly a party. It was a kind of a sandbox type thing that we were doing. So there's this guy first of all, this is a play-by-post game. And the player in question, English was not his first language. So the way he wrote his character's dialogue was kind of slurred it came out almost like the way I envisioned it when I read it was like, hello, I am Henkel, I am going to talk like this now. And this guy, he was this like awkward ass necromancer whose personal ambition in life was to become undead. The GM kept changing the rules for how undeath worked. So at one point he ended up turning spontaneously into a skeletal mage while in a back alley, under the justification that he'd performed so many goddamn experiments on himself that he had just kind of overdone it. And basically all of his flesh and blood just kind of suddenly falls off his bones, just everywhere. And the way the player rolls with it is he just stands around, looks around and goes, oh, this is strange. Why am I still alive? I could swear my tongue fell out. Oh yes, there it is. Picks up his own tongue, puts it in his pocket, and then proceeds to go around the town causing unintentional havoc everywhere he goes, because the player was smart enough to get into these secretive locations where undead really shouldn't have been able to get, but like incompetent enough that he would sort of accidentally ruin everything for everyone else. He ends up getting the guards called to a certain district of the city where another PC who is in secret a kind of a demonic cultist is hiding out. This demonic cultist gets arrested. He gets dragged to this last temple of the gods of light. And before he's dragged in, he basically uses every ounce of power he's got left and every little hero point he's got left, just burns them all, makes a pact with dark gods, and fucking curses the temple rather than get arrested, causing like the skies to open, fire rains down, and turning this one last bastion of light in the setting into a complete haunted shithole.
Jesus, sounds like my
all
wedding.
because of all because of one incompetent skeletal mage bungling around in the darkness. Through sheer incompetence, he managed to bring about the apocalypse.
That is
We all know about sheer incompetence.
pretty good.
Yes.
I don't.
I had my favorite fuck up is probably my superhero game, but that's just that whole thing has gone so off the rails from the beginning. It's really hard to quantify like one point of it. Like within the first 3 games, we were domestic terrorists. Like well-meaning domestic terrorists, but we definitely broke a lot of international laws in the pursuit of stopping a drug dealer.
Domestic terrorism, the game.
Yeah, but I think my favorite just complete and utter fuck up was a game that started out with like some real like heaviness to it that we didn't even catch at the time. So it was this it's a game world that my friend had created, and in it like dragons are worshipped as gods, and we got called in before a dragon to go, and we were given the task that there were like these undeads, or there was a supposed rising of undead in the north of the country. We were given like special passes and permissions and, servants of the kingdom of the, highest order to go forth, like go through the farmlands, find where the necromancers were, find out what was happening, and drive out the undead. And what we actually discovered when we got there was that these undead were like being raised by these specific scrolls that made them completely harmless. They were just, all they were used for was farm work because the wars had taken such a toll that they weren't able to, like, their industry was dying unless they had it. And then we were like trying to find the necromancers who were doing it, and like we were using our abilities to like kick through, and it's like it's too far to go into all the specifics until like one day one of our players just stops and goes, "We're the SS, aren't we? This whole thing is a Holocaust allegory." And my friend who actually is Jewish, he's like, "That's exactly what it is." And so like it starts out like really like, "Oh shit, wow, you got us. That's a good one." But within 10 games, we had gotten like the Master Scroll to create the undead ourselves, and we'd like sailed off. We were like, "All right, we're gonna leave them alone. We got a Master Scroll. We'll use it as we need to. We're not gonna mess with these people. That dragon can deal with his own thing." And we go into this town, and we're trying to like figure out how to evacuate a town, and we're like, "Hey, let's just let's create a few zombies, order them to stammer around, people will panic, and then we can, like investigate this diplomat, like rob his thing." Well, one of the zombies sort of accidentally fell down a well, and no one knew, and apparently the water got contaminated, and so within 2 more days, half the city was zombified, and they were not like the domesticated zombies from the scrolls. So they, like, zombieism overtook the city, and by the time we sailed off that continent, there was like a whole zombie army starting to march toward the center capital, overwhelming the peaceful ones who were just trying to revive the industry. So we sort of accidentally destroyed a continent.
You're literally worse than Hitler.
Mine's a little more small scale. Party was questing after this artifact that was stolen by, like, an evil baron. We needed it to, like, it was a combination. One, we needed it to, like, bring light to the kingdom, and two, it was one of my party mates, his lifelong quest item. So we defeat the bad guy. We're searching his place, we can't find it, and there's all this finery around there, and over his throne there's like this ornate picture of him. This painting of him. It's like him with, like, around with this, like, these fruit cornucopias and stuff. So I'm trying to be tough. I'm like, yeah, fuck you guys. So I grab the painting and I smash it. And at that point, the DM just stops. He's like, well, it's the release of magic as you destroy the portable hole that contained the artifact. So it pretty much blew us up, and the table just stopped there, and it was kind of like, okay, what do we do now? And he's like, there's nothing you can do. You pretty much just fucked up, sent it off into the astral plane, and it will take you like thousands of years to even figure out where the fuck it is.
You don't do well with artifacts, mate.
Yep.
He just blows and pulses it away from me.
Robert, what about you, man?
No, I don't have anything for this one. I was trying to think. We pissed off some unicorns, killed some gnomes, but no, nothing great like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pissed off some unicorns sounds pretty fucking rad.
Yeah, well, no, all I did was,
Hey,
I think
unicorn.
I just, like,
Fuck you.
no, I think I just, like,
Fuck unicorn.
I shoved a dagger into a tree because I needed my hands for something else, and then the unicorns got pissed off because I stabbed a tree. But yeah, that's not a great story.
Hipster unicorn.
I mean, the tagline was pretty cool. Pissed off some unicorns. All right, Steve, you had another question from the pipeline?
Yeah, we have had a question in from Jenica. Jenica's not even a name. Jennifer Baxter Roshek, and she says, big fan, keep up the good work. I think that's just to me. And the question is, what are your favorite types of characters to play? And has anybody done any interesting twists on traditional classes?
I'd like to say it wasn't just you. She also wrote on mine. She said, I'm cheating on you with Steve Wetherill. Yeah.
Well, now she's been called out for her two-timing on the podcast.
Unbelievable.
God.
That's Jerry Springer this shit.
Klaus and Brandon Thighmaster get into a fight with chairs the next time the game resumes.
Oh shit, we have to find a way to make that happen.
Oh man. Okay, so my favorite, I can do this one. My favorite type of classes, I generally prefer martial with like a little bit of magic mixed in. Like, from the core, it would be like, paladin, ranger, cause I like me a glass cannon, but man, I hate being glass. It's hard for me to not like rush in and fight. Twists on a traditional class. I think my favorite one I ever did was it was one of my favorite games I ever played in. It wasn't particularly funny, but it was like really cool. All the characters and the way the DM ran it. I played a pit fiend, who was concealed, like he made himself look like a gold dragon, and he masqueraded as a cleric of the god of strength, which was why he couldn't cast healing spells. He could only cast like increasing your strength spells. This was like 3.5, and there was like a lot of supplementary material where you could do like a young pit fiend and like grow into your powers. And that was actually really, really fun to do, like having to, because the other players didn't even know. Like we organized all of our characters outside of discussion around the group. Like only the GM knew what everybody's like secret was. And we had like a retired barbarian who was a pacifist, and like a former angel who'd gotten thrown out for killing too many demons at the expense of defending innocents. And it was like a cool game in general, but I really enjoyed getting to play that pit fiend because he slowly metamorphosized from a evil character to a good one, like within the natural progression of the narrative. It was just really fun.
I had So I'm kind of like Drew. I like to play like Paladin and Ranger are normally my jam. Actually, one of the fun things about Authors and Dragons is I'm getting to try out when I started this game, I was like, you know what, I want to try like a total enthusiastic, empty-headed bash machine. That's been great. As for one of my most fun characters though was this. So he started out as basically like a fighter, your standard Gish type fighter mage. But in that particular setting, one of the things about it was that arcane magic specifically was innately corruptive. It had like a drug-like effect on people who used it, and it was, innately destructive and dangerous and everything. So over the course of the narrative, and this happened I didn't set out to do this with this character. It ended up happening completely naturally in the course of the story, which is always great. His quest became to basically completely ditch his arcane magic to overcome his addiction and basically become a mage hunter. So he went from a sorcerer, from like a mage fighter type guy to basically a straight fighter, with, several supplemental abilities that allowed him to take down mages. And that was and there was this whole like redemption thing rooted around, it became this whole weird allegory for getting over addiction. And it was a really fun character to play.
This is a very
addiction
special
one
episode.
plays in. Yep, the addiction one plays in pretty well to mine, although a little bit in the opposite. I typically like martial characters and such, but in this game I'm playing now, one of my previous characters was an alchemist, and I decided to mess around with him a bit. So he was a gnome tiefling alchemist with all these body mods. So he had horns, he had a tail, he was like 3 feet tall, he had a third arm, he had a tumor familiar. And he had this growth on the side of his neck that would just detach and run off into battle.
That's fucking awesome. I have to remember that one.
He won most of his battles just by grossing people out. But his thing was he started off as kind of his name was Professor Blastingus. He started off as basically a kind of a neutral guy. He was really interested in the study of evil. But as the game went on, he got more and more seduced by it. So where it started off as kind of a decent guy. Instead, he started addicting whole armies to his drugs. He would he would brew up. He started doing experiments on people who would come to him for healing potions and stuff. Eventually he wound up creating this concoction that would steal people's souls so he could consume them.
The Walter White of D&D.
Yeah. Eventually the rest of the party wound up executing him. Because he was just going off the rails. He was selling them out left and right.
Okay, so Rick, just so far in this podcast, that's the second time your own party has killed you. I'm just pointing out the trend as I see it.
I have a bad record with friendly fire. I'll just say that.
So did you, just to clarify, did you end up becoming the campaign villain?
No, my wife actually did. Because after they killed me, she escaped, and she came back later and pretty much kicked all of our asses.
Oh, that's great.
I generally like to play rogues. That's no surprise for any listeners of the show. I don't know. There's just something about them that fit my personality. It's maybe a selfish thing. I like to let other people do most of the fighting, and then hide in the dark and take snipe a couple of arrows in there and take a full portion of the treasure and experience points. That's fun. Sometimes when I'm in a bad mood, I like to play a fighter or a barbarian. I generally stay away from wizards and things because I don't like math or keeping track of spells and stuff. So yeah, I'm a lazy character.
Any interesting twists?
No, I don't think so. No.
Good.
Don't come to mind.
This is my first kind of campaign.
Yeah.
The reason I picked a monk is because I thought it would put the least pressure on me to be good. So that's why I picked a monk.
Well, here's one for you. So now that you've gotten to play a few games and sort of seen how things run, what class aside from monk intrigues you the most to try? Should you happen to die at some point?
Is that a threat? That sounds like a threat.
Just something to always have in the back of your mind.
Oh, I'm having a great time as a monk. Great. Punching people till they explode. I don't know. Call it a lack of imagination, but I'm very content with that.
I don't think kicking a guy so hard that he sees his own asshole just before he dies shows any lack of imagination.
Oh,
yeah. That's definitely.
There's a lot of kind of physical and biological territories to explore of just how hard you can kick someone. So yeah, there's a lot to do with monks. Yeah.
I got a lot of comments or tweets at before you die you see the ring, motherfucker. After last week's episode.
Yeah,
People
that
were
was.
just like best line in the series.
Yeah, I'm having a ball.
Oh. Okay, so Joseph, you had another question from a reader?
Oh yeah. So this isn't from a reader. This is just from me.
Okay.
What's everybody when gaming specifically? Because one of the things I actually really like about tabletop is it sort of can be a testing ground for ideas for genre mashups and all sorts of stuff. Like, what's your favorite sort of genre mashup to game in? Because obviously we all kind of write in genre mashups. What's your favorite type of genre mashup to play in, or what would you like to play in if you haven't had a chance to?
Why don't you kick us off to give us an idea of like what's your...
Oh God, okay. Well, I'm actually getting a chance to do this right now. I have a campaign running it's a play-by-post campaign that's been running for 2 years, and the way I basically pitched it to the players is like Harry Potter meets Young Justice in ancient Rome.
That does sound kind of
It's
badass,
like
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
It's a superhero academy game that happens to take place in an ancient world fantasy setting.
Oh, that sounds really fun, actually. That actually probably is in my exact... I've never gotten to play it. I haven't actually gotten to play many mashups. But it's really hard to get most of my friends to launch anything outside of classic D&D. Like, this is my first year I've been able to get a superhero game around. But if I could do one, I would probably love to try superhero in a D&D world. And, like, I would literally like to mash the systems in that it would be, like, your superheroes and, like, your level 1, you're going to your first response, and then, like, a fucking portal opens, and you just get chunked into the D&D world, and now you have to cope with dragons and elves and magic, and you don't have any of that. You have your superpowers. But you can learn, you can cross-class, and then you just have to fucking try and find your way home.
Fuck, man, Superman punching dragons. I can dig it.
Yeah, that I think would be a fun-ass mashup game to play.
I've always liked the hero out of time, stories. Like one of my favorite ones was our D&D group wound up in like modern day Las Vegas, talking
nice.
to talking to a stage magician, and it turned out that that to complete the spell to get us home, we need to gather ingredients, and all the ingredients turned out to be illegal narcotics and stuff. So basically it was like this Miami Vice against like the cops and stuff.
That's pretty.
you're basically just a drug lord, aren't you?
Yeah.
Did all of this, but like, you're in modern Las Vegas. How much of your abilities work?
All the abilities worked, but since we were like in Las Vegas, it was kind of like in the middle of New York City. Nobody's really paying us much mind, and we were trying to like stay below the radar because we met, as I said, we met this stage magician who actually turned out to be like from our world, and he kind of explained it all to us. He's like, yeah, well, you need to go see like down on the strip Vinny the Fish and like and get a couple like grams of like coke, and we're like, what is this? He's like, the herbs we need to finish the spell. Okay, we're there.
The transition between worlds was entirely in your heads.
You didn't actually have powers, you were just junkies.
I have a friend who's been dying to take a D&D style, like 3.5 type wizard into a World War I setting.
Ooh, that would be fun. World War II would actually work better stylistically.
Yeah,
because
then you can play with, the Thule Society and all that shit.
Well, I was just meant like all the Nazi research into like mystical relics and whatnot could do the...
Yeah.
Oh, they cracked one open. Oh.
I'm not huge into mashups. I like my straight up D&D.
I can dig it.
No chocolate in your peanut butter.
Yeah.
Robert's like, you keep that gravy the fuck away from my mashed potatoes.
I don't like it when food touches you, bitches.
Oh.
I had a
I've
barrel
got like
of
6 questions here.
homebrew.
Oh, you got questions? Okay.
Sweet. Knock them out, man.
Alright, no, this guy's just telling me to write more books. I misread that. He said, are any of the A&D authors and Dragons authors going to turn the podcast into a series of books?
Oh.
That was his question.
That'd be pretty
Not
fucked
without
up
getting
series
sued
of
by
books.
the rest of us.
Yeah, that'd be hard to do, because it'd basically
It'd
be
be
like, the world we're using is the straight Pathfinder world, which we don't own the rights to.
Well, it doesn't have to be.
Right?
Yeah.
And B, it's just kind of like, that'd be a pretty fucked up story. And then Brendan Thighmaster stood upon the rock and said, look, my friends, we can find our magical dead horse.
So aside from the fact that we basically have to
Actually.
poach intellectual property from 4 of our friends in order to do it, or work out a really weird agreement, I don't see that happening just because, as Joseph just pointed out, it would be kind of a weird book, and like there wouldn't be much. It wouldn't have a strong narrative. I mean, it's real fun, in live theater, dicking around and having fun, but we'd have to really resculpt this thing to give it an actual plot arc for it to be a book.
Now you put it like that, I really want to write it.
Although,
like
if we each did a chapter told from the point of view of our character, that could be fun.
That could be funny as hell, actually.
And at the end, you just reveal they're all just people sitting in the mental hospital somewhere. And there you go, you tied it together.
Way to give away the series.
Bjorg's entire chapter consists of things like Bjorg hungry, repeated over and over again.
I was imagining Bjorg's like this beautiful, like, intellectual scrawling, and then the rage kicks in, and just punch, hit, kill!
Bjorg, kill! Bjorg, kill! Okay, now I'm sitting down. I am calmly seeing as I reflect upon the condition of humanity. Fuck! Kill! Eat!
Has there been a noob that you just wanted to purposely kill due to being too zealous?
Oh, Jesus, yes.
That's me, isn't it? I can tell when I'm not wanted. Jesus.
You're fine. No, I've had a couple of players in my games who were just so like the thing about most of my gaming is done play by post. So I mean, I have a relatively reliable group of people who come in, but every so often you need other players. And I have had some who their sheet to request to join the game looks fine on paper, and then they get in and they are fucking morons. Just like so painfully, so like stupid is annoying by itself, but when you combine stupid with sort of vaguely vicious and over enthusiastic, he's like, oh shit, I need a colony to drop on this fucker.
I've seen a player get killed for the opposite reason. He was, he'd been playing for a really long time, and he decided he was going to make like a really complex character using all the 3-5 feats and tricks. And it was like a dagger thrower, and but every time he hit with a dagger, he had an extra throw, and then he had like this trip move if he was near somebody. And it was just such a pain in the ass for the DM every time he went into combat. The 3 games in, like, it was a pirate game, and like a ghost ship of pirates came by, and like, undead were immune to all his shit, and they killed the fuck out of him. They killed him, and then the rest of us just sort of got off.
I feel like I should actually. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say this happened the last time I DM'd, which was like 20 years ago. All I need to do is tell you the character's name, and you'll understand why he had to die. Lamont the Magnificent.
Oh God, yes.
The second he just came up with that name, it was like, dude, you gotta fucking die.
Oh.
I feel like I should mention that if Bjorg ever dies, my default game plan is to make up a really stoned ass druid.
I have a sort of the opposite of what this question was. I was the noob, and I went to this gaming session where everyone else was really, really into it, and like they never broke character. They had discussions about the different gods they worshipped in the downtime, and they spoke in lousy British accents, and that was the most uncomfortable 3 hours of my life.
Oh Jesus!
Did you kill your own character at the end?
No, I just sort of rogued my way through and counted the minutes, and that was like 10 years ago.
Yeah, I'm all for getting in character, but there's a degree of it that's like
I played with a group that one time. It was pretty the closest I've come to just reaching across the table and start punching people.
Yeah, it's to a certain extent. I mean, we're all nerds doing this, but everyone, who games long enough, you meet that guy. That guy, you're like, wow, I kind of want to take your lunch money.
Yeah.
More nerdy than thou.
It's
we had
there are degrees of nerds.
Yeah.
Making us all look bad, man. Come on. Yeah. Put the pointy hat away. Come on.
Oh, all right. There's one.
If you ever go to a gaming convention and sit in one of the games, I guarantee you're gonna run into those guys.
Right,
I've done it a few times, and they are always there.
Here's the deep confession moment. Have any of you ever LARPed?
No.
Came close, but never actually did. I was invited to one, but it just never happened. And in retrospect,
Don't you professionally fight with swords? Surely you've got no no need to LARP. You actually beat people up with swords.
No, this was before that. This was before that time in my life.
I never LARPed. I skipped that shit. Just went to beating people up with swords. Excellent.
That ended how it worked out. So I was fortunate.
I actually have an invitation to join to do something like that over the summer. Some group is essentially kind of gonna do an orc horde, and they were like, "Hey, you want to join it?" And I'm actually considering it.
It might be fun. Like, I have a friend who does like mock battles, like with foam weapons, but it's not. He's been very adamant on this point. It's not LARPing because there's no characters involved. It's just like fake combat where you get to hit the shit out of each other with like foam bats and shields and arrows and stuff. But I tried it with him once, and I don't know if it counts as LARPing or not. There was no role playing, so probably not. But it was kind of fun to hit people with things.
Yeah, I can attest to that. Hitting people with things.
Now, I've hit people with the wrapping paper tubes before, but does that count?
I've never LARPed. I've had shit. I've never LARPed as a monk. I have had the shit kicked out of me in bar brawls before. I don't know if that counts.
My character was the guy getting his ass whooped.
In the other circles I run in, that kind of story, it's so fucking common.
Yep.
Hey, I've never faced combat, but there was that one time that I walked home with one fewer teeth.
Drew, you should. There's this website. This is a website you should share with your friend, formidabletoys.com.
Okay.
I supported their Kickstarter. Basically, what they are is those Nerf swords that they have. It's like that, but it's customizable. So essentially, you can you customize your hilt, your guard, your blade, and I got one from the Kickstarter. It's pretty kick-ass.
I thought you were going to say, yeah, it's like that, but they're all filled with heroin or something. That's what.
FormidableDrugs.com.
Formidable Toys, Bevan, you should have jumped on that, man.
Wait, no, why are there cops busting in my door? Please, no.
We just ruined their whole company with that one thing. Yeah, that's where you get heroin, right? Yeah. Tomorrow we get an email. Quit fucking telling people there's heroin in these things. I'm kidding. We don't have nearly the listenership to ruin a whole company.
That's how we do sponsorship, folks.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry, guys.
Sorry, Drew.
You want your company run to the ground?
Advertise on Authors and Dragons.
Authors and Dragons. How quickly can we drive away every sponsorship deal in the world?
This guy, Joseph Sylvester, he's asked 4 questions, but I gotta get this last one in first. Also, does Rick know that he sort of sounds like McLovin on the podcast? LOL, no disrespect.
God, he does.
Oh my god.
I didn't see it until just now.
Now everybody's going to be unable to unsee it. Great.
Wow, God, now
I'm a 40-some-odd-year-old McLovin. Wonderful.
Son of a bitch.
Oh, this is going to be great.
You know, if you told me that McLovin grew up to write comedic vampire books, I wouldn't disbelieve you.
This totally changes the way I see Silas now.
And it pretty much answers the LARP question as well, so that's perfect, man.
I was told by one of my friends, 2 episodes in, that my Bjorg voice sounds exactly like Sam Eagle from the Muppets.
Not exactly. You don't have the stuffiness that defines Sam Eagle.
Yeah.
Get him to wax rhetoric about America next round, and we'll see how that sounds.
Yeah, exactly. I come from the north. It is the greatest place in the world except for America.
Your dream
It's
is
the
to
American
found
way
America
to
in the
bisect you.
Pathfinder world.
Just have a fucking eagle land on his shoulder.
You see a giant rock, and it's shaped like a bald eagle, and it's considering you as food. It sees Bjorg. The two exchange a nod. You walk by.
Bjorg watches the rock fly off and silently sheds a tear for liberty.
The next episode is just a 40-minute monologue on a country that technically doesn't exist in this world.
Yeah.
I will write that shit.
And I'm a card-carrying member of the National Sword Association.
Oh God.
All right.
So Robert, you had another question from the readers?
Yeah, I got a couple more. One, well, let's see. All right, no, well, we've got one we already kind of answered. I'd also like to know what are the weirdest or dumbest ways your characters have died in past campaigns.
Oh yeah, we've definitely done that one.
Covered that. All right, here's yes, the use of spawning a horse. The way that you do them in your books makes me wonder if you did that in past games. Do you have a story to tell about a time you did that? I guess we can open that up to any unconventional use of magic.
Okay.
I think I've told my horse story already.
I actually haven't used the horse like I do in the books because that came about from the characters being in a situation and me needed to think of a creative way to get them out of it. So, horse.
What cracked me up about that reading your book is that I was playing a 3.5 game years earlier, and it was like a 2-man game running through a dungeon Jam was doing, so I was like a magic caster cleric, and my friend was like a weird off class from like the supplementary 3.5 stuff, and one of the things he could do was he could summon like shitty animals infinitely, and it was a dungeon crawl. So, like, he could summon a crow or a horse, but he could just summon over and over and over, no matter how many times it died. It could only be one at a time. So we were going through, and it was this like, subterranean dungeon, like, there were drow to deal with and everything. But since neither of us had any rogue skills, the immediate solution became he would summon a horse, he would slap it on the ass, and he would send it down the next room, and it would trip all the traps that we were heavy enough to trigger. And then it would die, and he would summon the horse again, and same thing until all the traps were sprung or we knew where they were. And like,
fuck you, horse.
Oh, we played this for like 2 days straight. And like it was the same fucking horse over and over again. And, like, we killed that horse so many fucking times. And then like at the room before the room, because this was a DM who also liked to have fun with it. The horse summon spell stopped working entirely. And, so we were like, oh, I guess anti-magic zone? Except other shit worked, so we didn't know what to make of it. And then we go to the final boss, and, like, while we were doing it, our DM had decided that rather than use the generic one-off boss he had designed, he took the time and he made the horse the final bad guy, that it had struck a deal with an archdevil to get the power necessary to get revenge upon us for murdering it over and over and over again. It was a hard fucking fight, too.
I think there's a portent there somewhere for our destiny.
In regards to magic in unconventional ways, this is actually that play-by-post game I was talking about, the Ancient World Hero Academy thing. There are 2 characters in that game who, so there's a Pathfinder spell called Mad Monkeys. It's my favorite spell in the game, because what it does is you summon a swarm of monkeys who proceed to, like, whatever is around you. Like, if someone's got, they just jump all over the target and they take things from them, or like distract them and like run away with their shit. So these 2 prankster characters have been working for several months on a way to cast Mad Monkeys in the central tower of the school in such a way, and then use like a permanency spell to make the monkeys permanent. And as an additional fuck you to the staff, adjust that spell so that anytime you attempt to use magic to get rid of one of the monkeys, it splits them in 2. So the only way to get rid of this fucking monkey swarm is to collect all of them by hand, non-magically.
Oh, wait a minute. Do you mean split them in 2 as in duplicate them, or split them in 2 as
duplicate. No, duplicate.
So it's like Pirates of the Caribbean, but with monkeys.
Yeah, basically.
So did they succeed?
Oh, no, they haven't tried it yet. They're still working on it.
Oh, okay.
Probably
work in progress.
The wackiest use of magic in that game so far is use of several like animation spells to cause an entire room full of statues to basically start hip thrusting.
Yes,
which is also pretty
That's
awesome.
what we're talking about.
Yeah, basically, like they're hip thrusting, and this was done in front of the entire school's faculty and all of the visiting parents.
This is your Harry Potter superhero Roman game?
Yeah, mashup game. It actually does have a pretty serious storyline. Like someday a book may come out of this, but it's right now. There's also that.
Doesn't. We all just heard what you just said. No, it doesn't.
But the magic monkeys were actually evil.
No. Yeah.
Oh.
It's like, there's a lot of people out there who think games might be a little bit weird, but no, come along and watch everybody hip thrust rhythmically. That's great. That's exactly the kind of game I want to be involved in. That's brilliant.
Rick, what do you got, man? Anything?
Most of my magical mishaps are through just like shitty dice rolls. Like I had a fourth edition sorcerer, and the way their powers worked, or the way the build worked, was that if you rolled a 1, it caused essentially this magical feedback that would like knock everybody back 10 feet. And at least three times in the campaign, we wound up on a narrow bridge with me in the middle.
Oh God!
One party all goes flying off, and it was just it never stopped being amusing for me. But it was another case where if the campaign hadn't ended early, it probably would have been another case of friendly fire death.
God, I'm really noticing a trend, man.
Yeah, shitty dice rolls and friendly fire.
Yeah.
That's pretty much your ammo.
Yeah.
So far, Silas hasn't shot any of us.
That is not true, I don't think.
Is it? I don't know.
I feel
it seems like it shouldn't be true.
I feel like he shot somebody. It was in in the game, but maybe I'm wrong. I've been wrong.
I don't
before.
think he shot anyone.
Happened once.
But
It might be that
it
it might be that he's wanted to shoot us.
Torag
No,
is a fickle
I
shot.
think it's the opposite way around.
Yeah.
Silas wants us to shoot him.
That I could actually
He's
believe
gunning.
pretty easily.
He's gunning for a friendly fire death in this game.
It's a martyr to Torag.
stopped
Robert,
playing,
you
I go
kicked
back-
off the question. Do you have any odd magical uses in your games? Non-horse related?
Yeah, well, not non-horse related. We, not spell-wise, we used a magic item. We used a portable hole to sink a ship once.
That's pretty rad, actually.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
want to hear this one.
Well,
That's cool.
we had a magical sandwich maker. The DM for this one was kind of silly. And you open it up, and whatever kind of sandwich you wanted, you get. And so we were on a boat, and this Tojanita attacked us, the big giant turtle creature.
Mhm.
Are you familiar with it? Yeah. All right. So, one of the players had the idea, well, we can't fight this thing. Let's open up the magical sandwich maker at it, and in the description for the Tojanita, it says they live like mainly to eat. If you can, appease their appetite, they'll be friendly or whatever. And so a bunch of chum and rotten fish started flowing out of the sandwich maker, and the Tojanita befriended us. And so he'd swim alongside our boat, and we got attacked by a much larger boat. And it might have been my character, I don't remember, but one of us, we took our portable hole that we had, hopped on the back of the Tojanita, and he swam below, and we just opened up the portable hole on the side of the hull underwater of the enemy ship. And I don't think, according to the rules, I don't think that's supposed to just allow water to flow into the boat, but the GM thought it was cool enough to where he allowed it, and the boat sunk like it was nothing.
They did
that's
not
awesome.
see that
naval
coming.
tactics.
I can't take credit for this one because one of my DMs did it, and I think he stole it from something online, but it was still a son of a bitch to deal with. So what he did was back in 3.5, if you take a bag of holding into an anti-magic zone, then it just opens, and inside you just see a regular bag. So he took the Lich, who was one of our mini-bosses, and stuck so he had someone walk into an anti-magic zone with his phylactery, put the phylactery into the bag, and then walk out again. So when you open the bag of holding, all you see is like the interdimensional space where it goes right to. So, and then when we killed the Lich the first time, we took the bag of holding off of him. And then like every D6 days or whatever, that fucker would just reappear. And we could not figure out where he was coming from for the longest goddamn time. I think we accidentally blew apart the bag of holding, which causes everything, inside and extra dimensional, to all come spilling out. And we saw the phylactery like, motherfucker. And that's when he explained what he'd been pulling. And we were like, you sack of shit.
I actually have one more story on this one. My wife, when I was first GMing for her years ago, she had a character that could throw down, like one of her primary powers is she could throw down force fields. it wasn't until this game that it occurred to me that giving someone with kind of an accountant's brain access to this ability is fucking dangerous, because she went from basically, I expected the standard defensive use of the power, but she started throwing it down offensively over large military vehicles in the second right before their guns went off. So you've got a tank with several people gathered around it, and its main gun gets ready to fire, and boom, there's a force field around it. What happens? What happens next can only be described as charnel.
Brutal, man.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Okay, I got a question for you, and we'll have to do a variant for Steve. But outside of D&D and basically D&D clones such as Pathfinder, what other systems have y'all played and really enjoyed?
When I was younger, we played Top Secret, which was TSR's spy kind of game. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yep, it sounds familiar.
Very cursorily.
Yeah, and we used to flip back and forth between that and D&D.
I played actually, when I actually first got started, I actually came to D&D a little later. My first gaming experience was actually like the Palladium system. I played a lot of Rifts, which was, fun. I've also, like, I've done a bunch of different systems, but I've also played a lot of White Wolf's Exalted.
I already mentioned Star Frontiers, but if you ever have a chance to play Call of Cthulhu, it is fucking insane. I mean, I did a campaign with that a couple years back, and I mean, it was a short-lived campaign, only a couple weeks, but shit happened.
I've seen things.
Didn't help that they're all on drugs.
I have been, I've been around for a while. I played most of them. I played Rifts, I played GURPS, I played White Wolf. I never really played Exalted. I did Vampire, and I did a White Wolf in general, which I liked better, because I feel like when you can mash the shit together, it really plays to the system's strength. I did a Besom game for a little bit. That was really hard to get a DM to, like, run well, because it's such a weird concept, but it was fun. Obviously, Mutants and Masterminds is another one I'm in right now. I would say Say what?
Oh, I was going to say I've played Mutants and Masterminds as well. I enjoy it.
I've never really found a great superhero system, but that one's the one that's working best for me. Honestly, of all the non-D&D games, one that I've really liked is sort of a D&D clone, but they actually had a lot of stuff in there that 3.5 didn't have at the time. The Star Wars D&D was shockingly a lot of fun for someone who wasn't super well acquainted with the universe, but God, our friend was, and it was an interesting game, because it was a lot more sussing things out than standard D&D. Like, figuring out who to beat the shit out of was the hardest part.
Oh man, I actually, it's funny, we actually, a Star Wars game I played in was one of the few games where I've actually had that experience of an intricate plot completely goes off the rails. And that was because, like, my normal group of very pensive, kind of thoughtful, RP-oriented players suddenly decided to go completely off the rails, and it turned from a Star Wars game basically into Grand Theft Auto in Star Wars.
Grand Theft Star Wars. Excellent. Who wouldn't play that?
This group of, like, normally well-composed, placid players suddenly became complete fucking psychopaths.
Oh, when does that ever happen?
I found out that there was a race in the extended world that was basically a 4-foot-tall bunny rabbit with mood fur, and I was like, I'm all over that. So I played a rabbit Jedi with a height complex, and that was funny shit.
Yeah, I don't know if it counts as another system, but have you guys, do you have Warhammer stateside?
Yes. Definitely.
Yeah. You know what Warhammer is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's basically, I came from a fairly unforgiving town, so you had to play your nerd cards close to your chest. But I had a cousin, me and him were into Warhammer. But it was too complex for us to play properly, so we just had all these figurines. And there was one time our families took us to the beach, and they took us to a beach hut. And we took he had a huge case of all these space orcs and space marines. And they had a table in there with a checkered tablecloth. And that was it, basically. So we spent the entire week just forsaking the sun entirely and just setting up these characters. And it was cool. So I dag a kind of amateur version of Warhammer. I've actually, interesting story. I recently took my stepson on his birthday. He's kind of into it as well. He's into magic cards and stuff. So I took him into the Warhammer shop. And there's only two guys in there. There's the guy running it and there's a little kid. And it was like walking into somebody's version of heaven. These guys were just so peaceful. It was like looking at some perfect zen. I just thought, I've wasted my life. These guys just look so content. It was like walking into some temple. And they were just sitting there, just looking at the characters, painting, setting up these meticulous models of things I can't possibly understand. It was wonderful. So yeah, I wasted my life, basically.
If only you'd spent more time on Warhammer.
I was gonna make a joke about orc checkers, but then that got all spiritual.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had a moment there.
No, that's okay.
I can bring us back to absurdity because a friend of mine, we tried the Indiana Jones role playing game at one point, and we staged a battle between Sala and Short Round. So it was this little kid with karate versus a guy with a gun. Went about like you would imagine.
Oh, word. I think you're just a bad person.
Okay, we need another question.
Anyway,
One more, I think
let's see. You got one?
No, I don't actually have one more.
Alright, last one I got, and the worst thing that's ever happened to a character on a critical fail.
Oh, I got a good one for that one.
All
It wasn't
right.
so much a critical fail. I had a monk character, and he was we had just done an adventure on the elemental plane of air and pissed off a whole bunch of Freet. So we escaped from the portal, and one was chasing us. Now now monks, they have ridiculous speed. There was no way this thing was catching me. But for some reason, I decided to pull out a deck of many things that I had.
Oh Jesus!
So of course the one card I roll the dice, and of course the card I pick is imprisonment by an extraplanar being. So the DM's like, okay, you trip over a root, the Ifrit catches you and drags you back.
Wow.
Well, that worked out well.
Yep.
Storytelling wise.
Yeah. But did he accidentally grab someone's nuts? That's what I want to know.
Yes.
I have no doubt.
I'm trying to think. I've had a lot of critical failures through the years. The one that always sticks out the most in my mind was not mine. It was one of the other players. But he did the 3 natural 1. He critically killed himself, and it was right in the middle of a fucking battle, and he was our wizard. And he was like the linchpin. Like, he was doing the walls of fire that kept the enemy contained so that we could like funnel through them appropriately. And son of a bitch goes to cast something, and it required an attack. He went up in an explosion of arcane energy as he tried to conjure too much and just fucking set off a chain reaction that ended up blowing up him and doing severe damage to everyone near the party who's supposed to be his fucking shields.
Oh God.
Yeah, my worst experience that comes to mind is the well.
And yet your finest hour. A character
That could have been my finest hour without all the goddamn ones.
There's a part of me that wants to send you out to the elemental plane of water just to...
If it wasn't for the fucking water, you would have done really well there, man.
Yeah.
No. See, the element of the plane of water loves Klaus. It wants him to come to it.
Yeah.
I think it was a character-defining moment. He's just so dedicated to uncovering secrets, he will absolutely drown the shit out of himself.
I can see at the end of the game when everyone's fully leveled and going off on their epilogue, Klaus has just he's got this ring of water breathing and opens a hole to the plane of water let's do this, bitches.
It will tell
I don't need
legends
the
of
elemental
him.
plane of water. I'm going back to that well.
He puts on a ring of water breathing and jumps in. Nobody's lived there for decades.
And then I just get Morgan Freeman back away with the book. And no one ever saw Klaus Richter again. Some say he's still dwelling in the bottom of that well, yelling obscenities at everyone who passes by.
Some say you throw a coin into that well, Klaus is gonna put that in his pocket.
Grant you a wish.
If your wish is to be poorer.
Does your wish to be exactly one coin poorer?
Klaus can hook you up.
Yeah. I feel like we should have given away spoiler alerts.
Yeah. Well, the way Klaus is playing, what are the odds he's actually going to survive to see the epilogue?
Oh, no. He'll survive long after he's set fire to the rest of us, I'm sure.
I just mean y'all are heading toward a coast town, and Klaus has managed to almost drown himself on land many times. Oh.
Let's see. Natural ones. I had a. So you played Riftsphere.
I played a game of Rift, so like not super in depth.
Okay, I had a Cyber Knight cut off his own foot with his Sai sword.
In combat.
That's impressive.
It's just, it's a natural one. Yeah, your foot's gone. That was the same game, I think. I'm trying to remember how that phrase went. It was like, so and so has been eaten. Soon you will be eaten. This forest sucks. Or something like that. I don't remember.
Is that haiku?
Oh, let me count the syllables. No, doesn't quite make 5, but maybe I should try to make it into a haiku. Or maybe Brandon should make it into a haiku.
Keep working on
that. That's what this campaign needs, more haiku.
Obviously.
I mean, Bjorn could start doing the rhythmic chant thing next time. He wouldn't be very good at it since he's got no ranks and perform. I used to have a rule, anytime my character was going to do any kind of diplomacy stuff or any kind of social roles at all, I would roll first and then base my RPing off of how good the roll was.
Oh, that's actually a pretty good idea.
It was just, cause, on one time it was actually harder when I would roll, like, really well. It's like, well, shit, now I have to come up with a speech that justifies, a natural 20. But the rest of the time it was just kind of, when you roll a natural 1, it's like, he stares at the guy and goes, pants. So, like, an intimidate check on a natural 20 can be great if you have the right moment to be like, come at me, bitches.
Yeah, intimidate doesn't work out so well for me.
Or any of them.
Alright, let's do one more question and then close it out. Who is your favorite character you've played with that wasn't yours? Like something a fellow player or friend came up with that you were just like, I fucking love that guy.
Oh, shit, let me think now. Honestly, going back to that story about the temple that got cursed and everything, I have to say that like weird ass undead necromancer guy was one of my favorite players that I've ever had in a game. Because, like, normally when you have a sandbox story and the players are sometimes opposed to each other, it's very easy for the game to just degenerate into stupid dickery. But this guy was like a special combination of ridiculously lucky and ludicrously incompetent. He was just like he would
every one of us.
Oh God! I would have never imagined that you could have single-handedly ushered in the apocalypse by wandering around the town, carrying your own tongue in your pocket.
That is a gift.
He also got imprisoned by another character and proceeded to try and dissect him. While he was, undead, so he was completely conscious through the whole process, and while again, I'm pretty sure English wasn't this player's first language, so he didn't let that slow him down any. And there is nothing funnier than watching one player try to torture another one while the torturee mocks the torturer in broken English.
I had a friend who played. It was actually a barbarian, and it ended up being a whole series of barbarians later down the line. But the first one was Awchit, AWCHIT, and he said that it was the clan was based off the first thing that their parents said when they found out that his orc mother was pregnant. Oh shit! And Awchit was like the classic dumb but wise. He had a super low int and a pretty high wisdom. So just randomly throw in philosophy as he's beating the shit out of people with a spiked chain. And I think I just sort of loved that character, both because it was funny, and because for some reason the player just got super, super lucky at the right times, and his reputation started building, because, like, he really did whip a lot of ass through the course of that campaign. And so we got a point where it got to, like, a final fight, and he literally, like, jumped off of something and landed on the battlefield, and just all of the opposing opponents just went, oh, shit.
And then please tell me that you followed that up with, that's right, say my name, bitches.
Right, something to that effect. Oh, and that, God, I loved Odd Shit. He was fun to play with. Rick? Robert?
I'm coming up empty here. I haven't played, before we started Authors and Dragons, I haven't played in years.
No.
I'm having trouble remembering, any other people's characters. It was
Yeah,
like barely my own.
And I've played with like a lot of really good characters, and I mean, I think what's more important to me is is it's only in recent years that I've managed to find every party I've ever played in has always had I won't even say character, that one person where you'd be like, if that person didn't show up this week, this would be a much more fun game. So it's only in recent years I've kind of I've reached parity with parties where I'm like, this is awesome, everybody here is pretty cool. And that's and when you have that, you get a lot of cool characters. I mean, probably the one that stands out was, I forget what her name was, but this guy was playing this little girl she was like a 14-year-old teenager with like multiple personalities.
Oh, God.
So like half the time she was like sweet and innocent. The other half of the time she was completely like selling out our group.
Mostly like most 14-year-old girls.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. Like, my character was like this drow sorcerer, and he kept he kept simultaneously trying to go up against her, trying to make alliances with her one personality while betraying the other personality. It was just ridiculous.
That sounds rad as hell.
Teenage daughters, man.
The only way that could be better is if the different personalities had different classes.
It's quite possible they might have, because he would pull out these powers out of nowhere, or be like, so suddenly she goes from being joyous to like sullen and like cast fireball. So wait, you couldn't cast that? Where'd that come from?
Oh, God.
That is pretty cool.
That is cool.
All right, guys. Well, I think that's a pretty good fun round to do.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that turned out nicer than I expected.
Yeah, everybody out there, thank you so much for taking the time to submit questions. We'll give you a little more advance notice next time we have to do one of these, hopefully, so we can, get you enough advance so that you can get your questions in on time. And, well, we appreciate you listening. Thanks. It's been 10 episodes now, and hopefully we'll be doing this for a long while to come. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank
you. All die in a fire.
Thank you, guys.
Tune in next week. Or next time.
But everything ends terribly.
Yeah. Party wipe next time.
Yeah. This is McLovin signing off.
Yeah.
Authors and Dragons is brought to you under a Creative Commons license, meaning you are free to share this material so long as credit is given to the original creators, which is us, the people who are playing it. The opening music, Take a Chance, and closing theme, Master of the Feast, are both credited to Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com and also used under a Creative Commons license.